So, Ekashue, thanks for taking the time. I'm delighted that you won on behalf of the IDF the Property Casualty Award of the Global Innovation Awards. And just thought I'd start out by asking you to just tell us a little bit about this effort that I've admired from a distance for quite a long time now.
It's great to be here, and it's also fantastic to have actually been able to win the award. And really thank you to the IIS for giving us that honor and the platform to be able to share a little bit about the work that we do. So the Insurance Development Forum, the IDF, it's a public-private partnership. It's led by the insurance industry and with international organizations, specifically co-chaired by the World Bank Group, as well as the United Nations Development Program. Our mission is really to expand and leverage the use of insurance and related risk management capabilities to drive resilience and ultimately help to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And so that's a lot of things, but I think it is a very particularly relevant mandate and mission at this time when we look at the broader environment and ecosystem that we all exist in when we think about protection gaps, the conversations around insurability. And we also focus specifically on emerging developing countries where those needs are particularly pronounced.
So that's all resonated a lot with me, partly because I've done some reporting trips in Africa and lived in Mexico for 2.5 years. So would you just talk a little bit more about some of the countries you are in, and then I'll ask you to follow up with a little bit more on some of the programs you have in those countries.
Yeah. So we have over 40 projects, if you can put it that way, across 30 countries. And our projects span a variety of initiatives, from risk analytics and really a focus on how do we make better risk information available in these countries, right through to the development of risk transfer solutions for sub-sovereigns or sovereigns directly or communities who are really struggling to deal with the kinds of shocks when we think about natural disasters that are happening all over the world, floods, droughts, etc., as you have alluded to. But we also do quite a bit of work in terms of on the investment side and how do you encourage insurers to invest more in infrastructure in emerging developing countries. The specific program that we won an award for is called the Tripartite Agreement. And under that program, which was launched in 2019, we had an objective to work with 20 countries by 2025 in the design of risk transfer solutions targeted at very specific needs that those governments had. And again, what do those projects look like? In Peru, it's working with the government to design a program to insure public schools. But it's not just an insurance cover. It's also thinking about how do we develop a database that the government can use to make informed decisions about how do you make that stock of infrastructure more resilient. And then we have other programs, like in Mexico, where the focus is on providing better insurance coverage for smallholder farmers who traditionally are not able to access, afford, or even are aware of insurance. And so that's helping to tackle a broader financial inclusion question that the government is trying to deal with. And then there are other projects which, for example, in Ghana, which we handed over to the government last year, which was the design of a flood insurance cover for Accra, which is an urban center, but focused on the most vulnerable. And that is particularly innovative because when we think about flood risk, it's already quite a complex thing to model. When you add on an additional layer of flood in urban centers and flood that is, or you're targeting particularly vulnerable communities, the task is even more complex. But through the IDF, we believe in tackling difficult problems. We believe also in really trying to get to those who are most affected to think about the solutions that are needed. And so that's really the focus of our efforts. It's global, but also trying to bring it to very much a local effort.
With the tripartite program, if I remember correctly, the German government is a partner, and you've lined up $5 billion of potential coverage. Is that roughly right?
Yes, so I can give you a bit of context to the tripartite, and it's building on my earlier response, right? Which is that the challenge that we see in many of the markets that we engage in are particularly complex. We also appreciate that it's not something that the industry can solve alone. We're all aware every year we see the reports being issued around protection gap. It's growing every year, right? And so our challenge was, how can we bring the public and the private sector together to tackle this issue? And so in 2019, we launched this as a partnership between the United Nations Development Programme, which is the largest development entity within the UN system, the German government, who I think has been quite innovative and a leader within this space in terms of recognizing the role and importance of insurance in development, and the IDF industry members who said, if we can bring together our capabilities, perhaps we can move the needle. And so as part of that, UNDP bring its presence in these countries, its ongoing discussions and engagement with the governments to really strengthen the discussion around the role of insurance in development. The German government has committed financing. So it's all good and well to say we need to do this work. Who pays? Right? And they committed $30 million to support the deployment of this program across 20 countries. And the industry members contribute the technical expertise in terms of the design of these solutions. They also co-invest in kind to match the commitment of the German government, but also the offer, as you had mentioned, of $5 billion in capacity to support those governments or entities that go through this program under the tripartite initiative and eventually want to take these programs to market.
So you are not shy. You have not taken on a small problem. You have taken on pretty much all the world's problems that other people are not tackling. So what's next? Do you want more governments? Do you want more money kicked in? Do you want more capacity? All of the above? What's the roadmap from here?
I could say all of the above, but I'm also pragmatic, right? I think what we've seen with the tripartite agreement, and I think also being aware of the world that we live in, we are seeing a public sector that is becoming, risk is top of mind for everybody. And I've never seen as many conversations that I'm seeing with governments that are really sensitive to this idea of I'm dealing with floods, I'm dealing with droughts. There is a constrained budget. Many governments are also dealing with high debt levels. So there's an incentive to do better, to be more efficient with spend. And that is also leading to a better conversation and a more sophisticated conversation around how can we work with the insurance industry. So from my side, what I would like to see is currently we have 19 companies who are supporting this effort with the IDF, working across the 20 countries. These projects are complex, as we had mentioned. Technically, they also need, expertise from within these companies to do this work. So I would like, or my hope is that, through winning this award and through this platform, we can sensitize people to the fact that there are things that are happening. And there are ways that the industry can engage to learn company to company, public to private, to engage better with these very complex problems, because we cannot be satisfied with where we are. We need to accelerate our efforts if we are going to close the protection gap, but we also have to be focused in terms of what we are doing. And the tripartite is an excellent way to be able to bridge the capabilities of the public and the private through very focused engagements with governments at a time where we are seeing an increased appetite to actually have these conversations and structure these solutions. So my hope is greater awareness, but not just awareness, to get involved. And getting involved means helping to deploy and engage in our projects, if it is in Ghana or in Argentina or in Mexico, wherever in the world, right? I think as the IDF, we're just not satisfied anymore to say, here is the protection gap, and leave the answer at that.
Right. So that's great. I think what you're doing is very much at the heart of the noble mission that insurance has had for itself for a very long time. So I wish you all the good fortune in the world. Any final thoughts before we end?
Yes. From my perspective, it's not just doing good. It's not charity either. And I want to be very clear about this. It is about, and you said it, what is the purpose of insurance? What is the foundations of the industry, right? It is about opportunity. And again, when I think about the world that we're in, we're having challenging conversations around the protection gap, around insurability, but we also have a society that wants to understand a little bit better, right, the value of insurance. And they want support in thinking through what a future could potentially be. And I think that that's an incredible opportunity for the industry. It's a challenging one, but through collaboration, my expectation is that it allows us to actually be true to the foundations of what insurance is and the sense of solidarity, mutual collaboration, et cetera, that is at the essence of what the industry is about. So that's my final comment. It's not charity, it's real work. It's opening new markets and opportunity.
Well said. Thank you, Akosua, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.